Welcome back to the Holosky podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Steven.
And Kyle.
And it's Monday, Holocult. You know what that means. We're here to hang out with you through the beginning of this work week. Hopefully it's a good one. Hope everybody's safe. And we're just here to power through it. You know how it goes. Today, I'm coming in with a case that I found here recently. It's from a while ago, but it's interesting. Just poses the question, are curses real? And can you be scared to death? So you're going to want to tune in after all of the housekeeping to check that out. Speaking of checking it out, check us out at all our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Discord, Reddit. Search up the Holosky podcast. You will find us there. Come be part of the cult, be part of the community. It's a good time. It's fun. Everybody loves it. Just a whole thing. If you have a paranormal experience you'd like for us to share on a future listener experience show that drops Thursdays, Kyle's got some info you're going to want.
I do, and it's simple. You can check the show notes or just remember the email, holoskypodcast@gmail.com. Write your story out, shoot it over to that email, ask for an interview, whatever you got to do. It's all done through the email. That's the easiest and most efficient way for us to figure things out. Don't get your panties in a bunch if we don't respond within 2 weeks, and then call us out personally on social media. Because that's definitely not a way to end up working with us.
Kyle's got a point.
Just note to selves.
Do better.
We're a little busy.
Do better, nerds.
That's all I'm asking. Give us some space. Let us breathe.
Yeah, just chill. Just chill. We're doing our best.
Yeah, and if you hear my voice is different, or I'm going to try to edit them out, the little coughs here and there, but I'm recovering from COVID, so there is that.
Making its rounds again.
Yeah, give me some patience.
Making its rounds. If you'd like to support the show, there's plenty of ways you can do it. You can go over to Patreon, check us out over there for a mere $7 a month, which is less than the price of a value meal at some shitty fast food restaurant. You can be part of the Holocult sect of the Patreon. It's awesome. There's extra shows, early release shows, no ads on shows, casket breath drops, coupons to the store, all kinds of good stuff. Definitely worth checking it out if that's something you're interested in. You can go to our webpage, holoskypodcast.com. We got a store over there. You can check out some of the merch, get you some holo swag, t-shirts, hats, stickers, all sorts of good stuff. Best thing you can do is share the show word of mouth. Share it. Keep the Holocult growing. If you'd like a different experience, you can hop on over to YouTube and subscribe, where we will be posting not live, but video editions of all of our shows. Again, Kyle's been busting his ass, doing some video editing. It's turning out awesome. Go over there, check it. You can see our smiling faces. It's a good time. You can also go to wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating and review. And if I find them, I'll shout you out. Doing my best. This week's 5-star rating and review comes to us from our friend Conan. Conan says, "Why are there not 6 stars? 5-star rating. Thanks so much for all the hard work and efforts to bring out the content you do. Steve and Kyle are relatable, and the topics they explore are quite often mind-blowing, but also eye-opening. These guys get me through the day while battling through the grind, so much so I go back through the catalog of episodes and re-listen to all the previous episodes while I'm waiting for the new ones to drop. They feel, to me, like two mates delving on subjects with a couple beverages around a fire at night. If you manage to overcome your fear of flying or water, you'll be welcome anytime to come and explore our beautiful country. Share some creepy stories and possibly a few beers or monsters. Well done, gents. Keep doing what you do, and I hope you get your dream of Holosky full-time. Much love from Australia, Conan." Double horns up emojis.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
We just got a free pass to Australia.
I mean,
I feel like he's the ambassador.
That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
The ambassador for Australia's just invited us.
That's a hard one to turn down.
If we could build a bridge from Illinois to Australia,
I wouldn't drive on it.
Kyle wouldn't go.
No.
If we can build the teleporter.
There you go. I'd do that.
But Conan, thanks so much for the kind words, bro. I'm stoked.
That is cool.
And we can help get through the day. We all know how shitty the grind is.
Oh, yeah.
So we get it. We're glad to be there with you. Just know we're all fighting the same fight. Same path, different shoes, bro.
Yeah.
We appreciate you. Thanks so much for sending it from across the world. That's so crazy to me still that people that aren't in Jerseyville listen to the show.
Oh, I know.
Bonkers.
Makes no sense.
But I love it. And it's awesome. That being said, if you're new to the show, I should have said this at the beginning. We do a little banter before we get into the show, and people cry about it.
That's okay.
So if you want to know when the crux of the show starts, their banter is usually 5 minutes to 7 minutes. It's going to be a little longer because I'm talking right now.
Yeah.
But if you go to the show notes, we're going to post a little thing. 6 minutes is when the actual show starts. And here we go. So I'm going to start today's case out with a police report. Not a police report. My bad. I'm not going to do that. It's a news article from the Tri-City Herald in Pasco, Washington, from Wednesday, April 24th, 1991. I'll read the news article in its entirety. Seattle police explore dead man's curse. Seattle. King County police are probing the mysterious death of a man who reportedly told friends he feared for his life after a woman put a curse on him. The body of Christopher Case, 35, of North King County was found in an empty bathtub in his apartment last week. There was no evidence of foul play, but police are perplexed by several crucifixes and piles of salt found throughout his apartment. Police Major Jackson Beard said the salt and other objects found at the scene have some significance in self-protection against demons or evil forces. Beard said Monday that investigators were awaiting tests to determine if there were any toxic substances in the man's bloodstream. The cause of death has not been determined. Police went to Case's apartment after a Fayetteville, North Carolina woman who was a friend of Case called to say that she was worried about his welfare. The woman told police that Case felt his life was in jeopardy after a woman from San Francisco put a curse on him several weeks ago. Letters and other written material found in Case's apartment appeared to support that narrative, said police. Another North Carolina friend, Sammy Suter, phoned the Seattle Times expressing fear for Case's life. He said he met a woman who was a witch and was attempting to get him to be enamored of her. When he refused to respond, the woman supposedly put a curse on him. Solder told the newspaper. At this point, this is a suspicious death, something that needs to be explained, said Major Beard. So, that's from newspapers.com for anybody who wants to check it out. Again, that's April 24th, Wednesday, 1991. A legitimate case here of a man that's found dead after apparently having a curse put on him. We're going to dive right into it.
Sounds like a shitty day.
Yeah, not that excited.
No, not at all.
So I'm going to title this one Cursed to Death, The Strange Case of Christopher Case. In April 1991, an event shook the residents of Seattle, Washington. Christopher Case met a grim end in his own home under some very odd circumstances. On the morning of April 18th, 35-year-old Christopher was found dead in his apartment. No signs of a struggle or a fight were found, not even any forced entry. In fact, the door was unlocked. His body was discovered in an empty bathtub, fully clothed, in a kneeling position, with his head resting against the wall, with his arms crossed across his chest. Just days prior to his death, he had been relentlessly speaking of mysterious entities that were bent on ending his life. The townspeople speculated about his passing, with some wondering if this was the actual result of a curse. Is this a case of being cursed to death, or is it a case of being scared to death?
How does that work gravity wise, like as the position of his death?
I think that he was on his knees, knelt over in the bathtub, and he just had his head rested up against the wall.
I understand that part.
Yeah.
The part that I don't understand is him holding his hands to his chest.
I guess unless like the sides of the tub kind of held him and kind of held his elbows in place.
I can maybe see that.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Because you would think that the arms would fall down.
Yeah. They may have been resting on the side of the tub too. I didn't see
Gotcha.
I did see a crime scene photo of the bathroom, but I don't know if it was legit or
Okay.
not. It was from a website called Crime Scene Photos, so I assume yes, but I don't know. Let's talk about Christopher a little bit. He was a 35-year-old, by all accounts, very intelligent, sophisticated guy, was friendly, had a whole bunch of acquaintances. He grew up in Richmond, Virginia, where he was a radio DJ. So a lot of people knew of him, heard his voice. We can kind of relate to that doing what we do. He's very passionate about his job and even more so passionate about music. This led him to decide to move across the country to Seattle, Washington, where he began a new career as a music executive, where he worked for a company called Music Holdings. Music Holdings is a company that basically produces all of the background music you hear like in elevators. Remember when elevator music used to be a thing, or when
Yep.
you're put on hold, you get the just
Yeah.
real um
It's still like even
typical,
that is still called elevator music.
yeah, the real typical like just background noise. He worked for them as a music executive. It didn't take him long to make new friends in Seattle, but again, he kept in contact with a lot of his friends from the East Coast in North Carolina and Virginia. He had a pretty solid friend group from his work there. It also should be noted that he was single for a long period of time. He really didn't have any interest in finding a partner because he traveled so much for his job. He also was big into fitness, constantly working out, taking vitamin supplements. Like he was really super focused on being healthy. He also didn't have any notable health issues that were reported. He also had a weird, I guess it's not weird, but an odd obsession with like Egyptian music. Like he would always just sit around and just jam Egyptian-esque music, right? So this is 7 days before his death on April 11th, 1991. Chris, who had went to San Francisco for a job meeting with a couple of his music executive colleagues, they were on like a business trip, found himself out to dinner one night with the group. One of his work buddies had brought along a friend who lived in San Francisco. This friend was an older woman, said to be very attractive and captivating. Chris, who had talked to some friends post that, had estimated she was probably about 20 years older than him. Chris and his colleagues and the woman sat down to eat their dinner. They started having conversation, kind of making small talk. And Chris could tell that the woman started to take interest in him. Like she was hyper focused on all of her conversation being posted toward him. In the same note, Chris also found her very interesting. She was just the way she carried herself and the way she talked and how she interacted with him really came across as something that he was interested in on a platonic level. She also had a lot of knowledge in this old Egyptian music that Chris was into. And he found that as like an odd coincidence. What are the chances that the two of us happen to run into each other and we both be into this just totally like out of pocket music genre?
That is weird.
Yeah. Almost like she was kinda honed in on him,
Yeah.
you know? Like, strange. At this point, Chris sort of started to notice that the woman was implying more of an interest than just Chris's personality. She was, like, digging him.
Getting hot to trot.
Yeah, putting it on heavy where it didn't even really cross Chris's mind too much that it could be anything more than just, like, commonality conversation. He was excited to talk about her with the things that he loved, but after a few hours, again, she was laying it on pretty thick. Toward the end of the night, the woman asked Chris if if he would take her home. I saw two different things. She asked to go to his house, and then I also saw that she asked if he wanted to come to her house. A lot of things about this case you'll notice if you look into a lot of the reports and a lot of the articles that were written, there are a ton of discrepancies. I've seen some articles noting that this took place in 1999 when we have direct police news articles saying that it took place in 1991. So there are a lot of discrepancies. I even seen a discrepancy in his name. People calling him Christopher Chase instead of Christopher Case. Like
That's weird.
it's hard to sift through some of the static because I feel like people just find shit like this and then just post it. Don't look into it or anything.
It's still weird that there's that many discrepancies, though.
Yeah.
It almost doesn't make sense.
No, especially when you have like I even found a link to a find a grave. It showed his grave, when he was born, when he was dead, his actual name, and like it's almost, I don't know, it is weird. It's like people not doing their due diligence.
Yeah.
But just keep that in mind. So, regardless of who was going to go where, he declined politely her romantic advance. He said, I'm just really not interested in that at this time. Her demeanor changed at this point. She started to become more aggressive toward him and more persistent, like encouraging them that he needed to leave with her. Just constant, take me home, come with me, this, that, and the other. So much so that he started to feel uncomfortable, that his rejection of her, like, wasn't even registering, just wasn't being respected at all. Like she just kept pushing and pushing.
No means no.
Yeah, exactly. And at that point, he was like, you know what? I've been here too long. It's time for me to get back home. I got to go work out. I need to go get some rest. I got to be up early in the morning. At this point, he had stated to his friends that her flirty tone turned just immediately to anger and frustration and almost threatening. And she told him, quote, "I'm actually a witch and I'm going to put a curse on you. You're going to be dead within a week." Chris was never really into the paranormal so much, so he was kind of a skeptic, and he just blew it off like, man, she's not handling this very well at all. And he left and went home. Well, went back to his hotel in San Francisco at that day.
I think most people would do what he did too.
Yeah.
Like even even us being into the paranormal, if there was some lady flirting with us and we were like, no, like we're good, and she just started spouting off at the mouth, "I'm gonna put a curse on you and you're gonna die within a week," I'd be like, all the more reason why you need to go away. You are insane.
You are out of pocket here trying to put a curse on me.
Yeah, like this is insanity, lady. You need to move on.
Yeah. Can you imagine being so bummed by rejection that you just immediately curse the person?
I don't know. The whole thing is just bizarre. The fact how they it all kind of fit into place of
Yeah.
her, unless she was kind of faking her enthusiasm into the music genre just to get close. But outside of that, the whole thing just seems extremely sus.
Yeah. Especially that like the business partner brought him in. It seems like there could be some underlying webs of deceit here.
Yeah.
And I almost, it's weird because the way that they talk about him talking about her before she made the flip was that like he was visibly stoked to find somebody that knew enough about the Egyptian music that he did. So I guess that wasn't very commonplace for him to find it. So even for her to like try to fake her way through that would be
Difficult.
Yeah. Hard.
Yeah. So I don't know. The way they line up, then it's really bizarre.
It almost makes like in my brain, it makes me wonder if the business partner that introduced her to him, what if he had the curse and he had to pass it on?
Maybe. I mean, that makes sense. Or it's like a blind date situation, maybe, where his work buddy is like knows this lady who's into Egyptian music, and
that's probably
like, hey, like this is cool. Like maybe we need to low key introduce, but it's weird that she was that pushy on wanting to go home.
Yeah, she wanted it.
Yeah, so she wanted something, whatever it may be,
to listen to some Egyptian music
together
as one. But as he got back to his hotel, his trip started to kind of round out, and he flew back to Seattle the following day. He really didn't think a whole lot of it post the encounter, because he was like, man, that was pretty weird. Her reaction was pretty strange, but whatever. I got to go back and get back to work. He lands in Seattle and he decides to call his friend Sammy from back east and just kind of talk about this bogus ass experience he had with this woman, right? They started to kind of talk shit and kind of laugh it off, and really none of them took the curse very seriously. Sammy was adamant, like, you dodged a bullet. This woman is nuts.
Right, yeah.
Good thing you didn't go home with her, because you probably would have lost a kidney on it. Would have been sold on the black market.
That's exactly where I stand. I mean, I stand exactly the same. I would just be like, bro, this definitely worked out for the best.
Yeah. And Sammy was spot on. She's like, yeah, you dodged a bullet.
Yeah.
They'd probably be finding your liver sold in Colombia or some shit.
And kudos for homie staying 10 toes down and not thinking in opposites there and being like, yeah, this is a good idea. You should definitely come home with me.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, though, in the end, it still played out not great for him.
Yeah. Maybe losing a kidney would have been the better decision at this point. But Sammy said, in all, like, looking back on it, he ended the call in good spirits, and there really wasn't anything out of the norm of that first call that they had together. Post that, he just went back into his work routine for the next day, going to work out. And the first 2 days back, everything, after meeting women, everything seemed pretty normal. Right? He's back, kind of getting in the swing of things from his little vacation, not really thinking about the woman outside of the call to Sammy and kind of talking trash and making jokes. This all changed on the night of April 13th. Chris lived alone in his apartment, and he had went to bed early, just as he always does. Right at the time he gets to falling asleep, he starts to hear whispers coming from his kitchen area. So he's thinking, oh shit, somebody's in the house. So
I instantly would have thought of the crazy lady if I was in his shoes.
I don't know if that was the first thing to pop into his head, but would you have thought about it in, like, she's broke into my house?
Yes.
Or in the curse aspect?
No, I think I would have thought this crazy asshole broke into my house. That's 100% where I would be, especially if, like, he sounds like he's a very normal person, right? Like, has a work routine, has a steady set of friends, and beings that he's not into the paranormal. Like, he's just a very normal, run of the mill guy.
Yeah.
Into like, I don't know. Like, I feel like instantly his brain should be like, it's this crazy asshole broke into my house.
It should have would have went like stalker as opposed to like paranormal assassin.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So Chris is hearing these whispers coming from the kitchen, and he's laying there in bed. He's like, what in the hell is going on? Kind of half thinking maybe he's dreaming this scenario. And as soon as he thinks about getting up and checking, the whisper stops. He's like, all right, so maybe it's just in my head. So he rolls over and closes his eyes again. As soon as he starts to doze off, he hears the whispers again, but this time it's not coming from the kitchen. It's coming from a different area of his house. So he's like, somebody is in this sumbitch. He immediately thought possibly burglars, break in. So he got up and went into the room where he thought he heard the whispers.
Gangster.
Immediately they stopped. As soon as he walked in, like, broke the precipice of the door, it stopped.
Imagine how fucking terrifying that would be in that moment.
Yeah, that would suck.
To hear just to hear somebody else speaking in your house is terrifying. But to walk into the room where you clearly hear the whispers coming from, you break the barrier and the whisper stops. That would tell me right off the rip that somebody has just witnessed me come into this room.
Yep, somebody is in that sumbitch.
Yeah.
I felt the same thing. So as he got into the room, he stands there and he's just kind of just doing what anybody would do, and he's looking around the room, looking for someone, essentially. And as he pans the periphery back to where the door is, he sees a shadow run across the door. And he's like, okay, someone is in this son of a bitch. Genuinely thinking someone has broken into his house this time, he goes around and inspects every room of his apartment, turning on every light, checking all the windows, checking the doors, making sure everything is locked up, which it is. So unless somebody had managed to get in the house before then, they shouldn't have got in there while he was home. And he did a thorough walkthrough of the entire place and could not find any signs of anybody being there. As he's looking and checking the locks, the whispers start again. And they start backtracking the places he's already checked. So he'll go into one room, clear it, go into the next, and then he'll start hearing the whispers again. So as he's backtracking and checking, he sees more of these shadow figures moving, almost like it's just trying to make him feel like out of pocket, make him feel crazy.
Well, it made me feel some type of way. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
I would be scared shitless at that point.
Yeah. So he recalled spending the entire night basically chasing whispers to one end of his house and then chasing shadow figures to the next. He said, I'd go and investigate one and it would immediately go to the other. I'd go to check that out and immediately go to the other. And he said it took place all night. These accounts are coming from his friend Sammy, who, as soon as the sun got up the next morning, he called to let her to talk about what in the hell was going on in his apartment. She said he had a lot of panic in his voice when he was talking to her. He told her that he was sure that it was not an actual person in his house. He had checked and double checked and triple checked, and there was nowhere for somebody to hide. That's why he didn't call the police right off the rip. He felt that the police would see him as just being crazy if he told them that there were whispering shadow figures that were harassing him in his apartment. Sammy also would say that the police, who is a complete skeptic and was Sammy told the police, here we go, that Chris, who was a complete skeptic, was absolutely terrified of the things that had began to happen in his apartment. So she said it was really out of pocket for Chris to kind of point toward the paranormal that these things were going on, because he was such a rational person. He would have taken the route like Kyle had mentioned, like this probably has something to do with either the woman being in my house or some burglars being in the house. She said it actually caught her off guard to hear him say that he was scared of the voices and the shadows in his apartment. Like normally this would be something that he would either just brush off or he would pay no mind to, give it no credence at all and just be like, whatever. Unfortunately, the next night, the occurrences did not change at all. Chris was forced to endure the whispers and shadows for the second night in a row. But on the second night, he was able to get to see the shadow figure more clearly. And it said it would approach him to the point to where he could almost touch it.
Oh.
But as soon as it got close enough to touch, it would dissipate in front of him. He said it didn't have any notable details, but it was human in shape. It had a head, a shoulders, but no like defining real features like of the face. And he said it would approach him, coming head on with him. And he said as soon as it got within arm's reach, it would just dissipate into smoke.
Well, I can tell you, for me, it would be one of two things. I would be, and it is kind of a typical answer because it is flight or fight. I would either be running out of that fucking house, or I would be planting feet, 10 toes down,
swinging
and throwing out as much protection as I possibly could to see. I think initially I would probably throw out protection to see if that made any difference. If it didn't, I'm rolling out.
Yep.
Audi 5000. Because if I try swinging in that thing and I go through it, I'm out.
Yep.
Dude, fuck this. I'm gone. No way.
I agree. I mean, you and Chris are on the same page once we get further down in here. After two pretty much restless nights, Chris, being the assumedly rational. I say that like believing in the paranormal is a bad thing, but it's not. But as a person who did not, put any water into the paranormal, he kind of started to question his sanity. Like he was
rightfully so.
It was affecting his life. 2 nights not sleeping because you got shadow figures and disembodied voices whispering in your apartment is definitely gonna cause some some negativity in your life. But on the third night, he was determined to sleep. He got into his bed and eventually passed out. In the middle of the night, he was woken up by the whispers again. As he opened his eyes, he felt as if his body was completely paralyzed. Sleep paralysis. In this paralyzed state, he heard the whispers come from outside of his bedroom. He couldn't move to look, he could just hear it. And as he's sitting there trying to rationalize what's going on, it stopped. So, still not being able to move, he's thinking, all right, well, the whispers stopped. That's better. Then all of a sudden, he heard them again. And they're inside of his closet in his bedroom. They get loud, then they stop. And he's thinking, okay, that's probably not good. I can't move. I can't do anything. And then they came from underneath his bed.
Oh, shit.
Do the same thing, get loud, and then they stop. As they stopped, he's laying there, total sleep paralysis, can't move. One of these shadow figures he'd seen the nights before emerge from the foot of his bed and stands up in front of him. Still can't do anything. This thing starts moving up. It's typical like old hag sort of movement here. Moves up from his feet up onto his chest and begins to strangle him. Hands around his throat, clutching, trying to choke the life out of him. He reported to Sammy that the figure had so much strength it actually lifted him up off of his bed. And then when it released its clutch on him, it slammed back into his mattress. So, paranormal choke slam, for lack of a better term.
That sucks.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, obviously, I was going to ask, but obviously, he can feel every bit of it, the choking, all of it.
He said he hit so hard. He doesn't know if it had him that high off of the mattress because he said he couldn't move. And I almost picture it like picking him up in a horizontal state. Like he's still parallel with the bed. He said when he hit the bed, it hit with such force that it knocked him out.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty gnarly considering you're landing on a bed.
Yeah. Said the power. It could have. Maybe the choking put him out.
That makes more sense.
He said when he woke up, his sheets had blood stains all over him, and he couldn't figure out like what in the hell happened. So he goes into the bathroom and begins to start cleaning up, and he notices there's blood on his hands. So he's like, "Oh shit, did I do something in my sleep, or what the fuck is going on?" So as the soap hits his hands, he realizes that each one of his fingertips has a slit down the pad of his fingers. So
gross.
All the blood on his sheets were his own.
Also, pointing out something slightly ironic. Wasn't there early in the episode? I'm trying to reel back and think about it, but I can't. Yeah, I remember. I don't remember what it was, but I remember you saying something. He thought about something and it kind of transpired. And I cannot remember exactly what you were talking about, but it's not the first time it happened. I'm bringing this up because what is ironic about this situation is that on this particular day, when the entity paralyzed him and did what it did, what was the thought that he had going into that night? Tonight, I'm going to sleep.
Yep.
And then essentially he does get, because I was going to make a joke about, well, at least he got some sleep. But then I got to thinking about it and I'm like, oh shit. Like he thought about sleeping and essentially this thing put him to sleep.
Yep. Sucks.
That does suck. And I know you made a reference earlier and I just cannot remember what it was, but it was because I remember you saying something to the effect of like, he thought about this and ironically enough, like this kind of transpired. I can't remember what it was though.
I don't recall right offhand either, actually. But so he's in the bathroom and he's looking at his hands and his fingers sliced and everything. And he's like, what in the fuck happened last night? He starts to notice, he hasn't really looked in the mirror, but he starts to notice that his neck is sore as fuck too. So as he kind of leans over and looks in the mirror, he sees that he has bruises and marks from someone's hands being wrapped around his throat. Chris does what Chris always does when something fucked up happens, and he immediately calls Sammy, and he is absolutely terrified. He said he is afraid of dying, so much so that Sammy was like, living on the other side of the country is feeling helpless. She's like, well, then you need to call the police. If someone's breaking into your home and accosting you, you need to tell somebody. But Chris is like, there isn't anyone breaking into my home. I have no proof of that. The police are going to think I'm out of my fucking mind. At this point, Chris is starting to think back to the woman in San Francisco now. It's really starting to sink in. He's beginning to accept the fact that maybe what this woman said was legit. Maybe he was cursed. He decided to take Kyle's route, face it head on.
Oh man,
Head
I
on.
don't know that I would advise that.
But you have to keep listening here how he did it. He goes to a nearby religious bookstore called the Evangel Incorporated the next morning. He starts to begin to talk to the store manager, who they also sell a lot of religious relics and stuff there. Store manager, a guy named Rodney Higuchi, begins to talk to him on how to defend himself against possible paranormal demonic forces attacking him. He bought a couple books on religious metaphysical defense. He bought some candles. He bought some crucifixes and some rosaries, and also some salt for his home. When he got back, he immediately started to draw the battle lines with these entities. He proceeded to hang the crucifixes all around his house. He made lines of salt going through each room and concluding in little piles in each corner, even so much around his bed. He had made various notes to himself on pieces of paper scattered throughout the home on how to defend himself against demonic forces. He made sigils out of salt all over his apartment. Out on his apartment balcony, the police found salt sigils.
That's wild.
Dude, to think it's only been 4 days, right?
And
Since
dude's
he met
all
this
in.
woman. Yeah, and now she's got him just by that one sentence. She has got him so far in her grasp that even if the curse wasn't real, it almost is real because she's locked into his brain so
of
much.
soul perception like that. But I don't think that's the case, man. I really do, because it took him 4 days to even think about it.
Yeah. And the fact that he put all this weird paranormal shit that just started happening out, like, didn't connect it to her.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It is weird. And at the end of the day, I mean, he had damages to prove, right?
Something was going on.
Right. Like, even if it is, I mean, I guess it could be an extreme form of sleepwalking,
Where he's injuring
himself. But that would be like a fucking extreme form.
Yeah.
And that one, you would think that one worming comment from her would have struck hard at the beginning when she first said it. If he was woo woo like that,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, and never having any types of problems like this before, that one comment would have resonated so hard with him that it would have sent him into like a psychotic spiral. However, it didn't. He just did what we would have done and be like, you're fucking nuts. I'm going home. I'm not dealing with this shit. You know what I mean? So it doesn't make sense to me that this would be some type of sleepwalking extreme situation.
Yeah.
Of self-mutilation. I can't believe that right now.
It's strange. It is strange.
Because now by him connecting the dots, now I feel like his panic would ramp.
Oh, yeah.
Like tenfold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because now you're living inside your head, you're finding causation to the issue. And even if it's 100% unrelated, your brain will make it related, and it'll make that situation 50 times worse, because that's what our brains do.
100%. 100%. So, in less than a week of meeting this woman, Chris's whole personality changed. He has essentially became a different person. Everything about him changed. His confidence kind of just withered into nothing. His rationality kind of just withered into nothing. He became obsessed with the idea that this curse was being real. So much so that this curse, like Kyle said, started to evolve into almost a paranoia that's taken over his life. He went from being a very matter of fact, very schedule oriented guy, business oriented, health oriented person, to being in less than 7 days being a man who is confined to his own apartment, being surrounded by salt and sigils for fighting evil.
That's also something to note too, because I know that like how I would feel, and I think you would probably feel the same. Imagine that all this is happening at your house, Steve, and you and me still have to go to work, right? So we leave for work. The entire day, you are going to be dreading
Coming home.
coming home. You're
Yep.
not going to want to walk through those doors. And I feel like at a certain point of being choked to sleep and your fingertips being sliced, you're probably not going to come back home.
Yeah.
You're going to say, fuck this. I would be like, Steve, I need a place to stay for a little while until I figure this shit out. I'm not going back home.
It's
Fuck this.
it's almost like you read this before and are going through it, because your reactions are essentially Chris's reactions, only kind of almost like more rational, I guess, kind of dialed back a little bit. Because you said I would put protection down. He immediately went all in.
Yeah.
Rosaries, salt, crucifixes, and now what you said. So he barely slept that night, and he began to miss work the next 2 days, which was completely unlike him. Like I said, very business oriented, very proud of the person he's put together. It should be noted that Sammy also wasn't the only friend from the East Coast that Chris had confided in. He had also been talking to other friends back there, essentially corroborating the events that he had told to Sammy. So, yeah, the night of the 16th, after placing the defenses in his home, he thought that it was going to be chill, right? You got all these religious things and sigils, and like all the whole gamut is going to calm these things down. But apparently this was one of the worst nights that Chris had experienced up to this point. Records show that he actually left his apartment in the early morning hours and proceeded to check himself into a local hotel. Nobody got the exact happenings of what went on in the apartment that evening after he put the sigils down, but we just have to assume that they were bad enough for him to actually evacuate his home and go stay somewhere else.
Because let's be real, it takes a huge set of balls to have what happened to him, your fingers getting cut, being choked the fuck out, and then you having the mentality, the mindset of, all right, motherfuckers, let's go to war.
Yep.
That takes a huge set of balls.
And I feel like it almost plays to his I keep using the term rationality, but I feel like it's coming across as negative. But like him not putting credence in the paranormal.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like he thought at this point, like, I can go head on with this thing. We can figure it out.
And what's terrifying, and that's why in my endeavors for protection, I've always been cautious, because especially in using imagery, I think symbols are in my opinion, they're insanely powerful. You know, sigils, any type, like your cross, imagery is so fucking powerful. The thing that is tricky with imagery is we don't always know the real meanings behind said imagery.
Yeah.
And initially, when you think of sigils, you do have a negative connotation with sigils. Not that they're always bad, because they're not. But right out of the gate, you think sigils, demonic, so on and so forth. And that's why I don't know. Like I'm not trying to throw shade, because I do believe that there are people out there that know what the fuck they're talking about. But I also feel like there are people out there that think they know what they're talking about, or pretend to know what they're talking about. Oh, I've read one book on sigil protection, I know how to protect myself from these hyper malevolent beings. Here, let me help you.
Yeah.
Let me help you.
I think I hit the nail on the head with the sigils he put in his apartment, because they said he bought a couple books on metaphysical protection, which
Yeah.
probably had sigils in them. And he thought, hey, if I draw these out in salt, they're going to work. I don't think it works like that. You have to have massive intention and know what the fuck you're doing, like you said. I think it did not work out the way
Obviously,
that
if
he would.
something gnarly happens where he abandoned ship, because I'm going to be honest with you, if I got into a fight with the Hat Man and
He choke slammed you.
fucked me up that bad, I'm not going back in my house.
Yeah.
No way. Not without like a full regiment of
The Ghostbusters.
Priests, whoever can throw hell back at these things. I'm not going back in that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Now, I'd rather catch the house on fire. Because I'm serious. If they can do that in just that one night, why the fuck would I go back for more?
Yeah, because you have to think in the realm of poltergeist activity and stuff, for it to manifest enough power to even move stuff is a lot.
Yeah.
And not a whole lot of poltergeist encounters become physical toward the experiencer. Some do.
Oh, we can deal with a thrown dish.
Yeah.
Or cabinet's door slamming, whatever. You can fucking deal with that. But the fact that this thing manifests itself in front of you, taunts you by climbing over top of you, paralyzing you, and then choking you out. And then think of the malevolence of choking you out and then cutting your fingers.
Yeah. It sucks.
It's not a form of torture. If you're awake and you see these cuts forming on your hands, that's a form of psychological and physical torture, right? Yeah. That is a peculiar level of malevolence at that point. But it is, in my opinion, it's a whole new level whenever you're out fucking cold, no recollection of the environment or the happenings going on, and then you wake up to find these mysterious cuts. Like, what? Why?
Yeah, like, this is what I can do. Like, you've seen what I can do while you're awake. Think of what I can do when you're not.
Yeah, like, I don't know. It's a whole new level of malevolence for me.
Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah,
it's gross.
Because it's like an unexplained. Like I said, awake and you see this happening. Like I said, that's a psychological, that's a physical form of torment, torture. You can kind of understand that level, but the being passed out and still doing it, that for me, that's this unknown. Why did you breach this level? What why? I don't understand what is going on right now.
Almost to like let him know that I can physically injure you.
Yeah,
like I am,
and that's terrifying.
That entity.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. Another reason we don't know what exactly happened the night of is because communication between Chris and Sammy had ceased at this point. The only record we have was that Chris had checked himself into a local hotel. So with the whereabouts of Chris not being known for a good 48 hours, Sammy could not get a hold of him. She immediately called the local police department to have them go do a welfare check. They said the police went to his apartment but found it locked. So they just assumed he was not home. They did not let themselves in. They told her that he might return in a couple days and ask her to inform them if he did or did not return. After 72 hours, they would go and do another check. Sammy was frustrated by their response, but there wasn't a whole lot that she could do about it. Then on the evening of the 17th, Sammy had a missed call from Chris where he had left a voicemail. Chris seemed frantic and scared in the voicemail, or he seemed frantic and scared the last time she spoke to him, but he sounded completely different on the voicemail. She said he sounded calm and just absolutely defeated. He said that he was under attack, and he told her how the paranormal entities had almost killed him the night before, and how he knew that this would be his final night on Earth. The last thing he said to her is, Sammy, they're going to kill me, and there's nothing I can do about it. That was the last communication Chris had with anyone, period.
So do we
recorded, I should say.
Do we know if he had any experiences in the hotel?
Not that I could find.
Okay.
Not that I could find, but
I'm going to assume that he did.
yeah, the fact that he went back to his home.
Yeah, that's because I was going to say, let's break this down because he calls in an ultra defeated mindset, which almost suggests the possibility of communication between him and entity.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, he said they're going to kill me, and there's nothing I can do.
And he used plural there.
Yeah.
They're going to kill me, not just the singularity.
Yeah. Which could mean multiple entities, or it could mean the woman and whatever entity she sent with the curse.
Right. But to, like you said, to go back home, that does clearly show defeat.
Yeah, you're just relenting.
Acceptance. It's just utter accept. And it's weird that he chose to go home.
Yeah, you've just relented at that point. Like, it's almost like the fact that it took place in a week is crazy to me. The fact that this man was totally broken within 7 days of meeting this woman is beyond crazy to me, because him returning to the home is basically just accepting his fate. I am battling an entity that I cannot defend myself against. It walked through religious sigils. It walked through the power of Christ. It walked through, all of this stuff. And there is nothing I can do. I'm fighting an enemy that I can't combat. So, and I agree with you. I feel like it did follow him to the hotel, because if he would have got relief in the hotel,
he never would have went back. Yeah. But for some reason, he goes back. And that, I don't know, that just sits strange with me. It's almost like whatever it was wanted him to go back to his home so business can be handled.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't know. Like, I just feel like
it could have been, I don't, maybe it had something to do with the 7 days. She said, you'll be dead within 7 days. And it was on the 7th, essentially the night of the 6th night.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Maybe having him there where nothing could intercede with it is,
I don't know, man.
It's fucked.
What a fucked up situation. Because you're right. You forget the fact that this all takes place within 7 days. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah. He went from just being a normal, rational dude, focusing on his career, focusing on his health, to
and everything. Like, there are no catalysts of like a psyche break for him in like real world situations, like he lost his job or his girlfriend dumped him or whatever the case may be. Anything that would cause a psychological disruption for this man is non-existent. His life is going smooth and steady, aside from psychopath Egyptian witch lady that wants to fucking put a curse on him because he didn't want to put out.
Yep. It's fucked. It's fucked.
Which makes you wonder her full intent in the beginning, anyways.
Yeah, and why him? Like, what of all? Because they had no connection with one another outside of his work colleague. Like, she didn't know he existed, and he didn't know she existed until they met at that restaurant that day.
See, and that's what sucks about some of these stories is that, like you made in the beginning, maybe it had something to do more with the colleague. Maybe there's a business dispute. Maybe there's envy going on there that we don't know anything about. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's it. It made me question it once. Like, he was the connection between the two. He brought her, but again, it could be something as innocent as, like you said, because Chris wasn't a dating guy. He didn't put himself out there a lot. He would much rather focus on his career and his health than a romantic side of his life. And maybe the buddy just thought, hey, maybe I can do him a solid, hook him up with this cursed witch. I don't know.
It's still, I don't know. Like, the more you think about it, the more fucked up it is that the dude from work's involved. And then on top of all that, why wouldn't have Chris messaged dude and been like, who the fuck is this lady?
Yeah.
What did she do to me? Because my life is fucked now.
Yeah.
Why or we don't know if that conversation happened or not. It very well could have. But these are pieces of a puzzle that we're never going to get to put into place.
Yeah. It's
and then furthermore, the fact that I find it, and I know it's my personality type because I know there are people out there that are this way, but I find it fucking crazy that if that's all you're looking for, if she was looking for a good time, to be that downright offended at rejection doesn't make sense to me.
No. I feel like there is some much more underlying.
There's gotta be.
It could be, I mean,
Unless you're just insanely egotistic.
the whole Egyptian thing is weird because they were both into that, and we've heard stories, like the Andrews account where the entity took the form of essentially Anubis, and there's all those weird ties to like old entities and old beings from back then, and
It is interesting. The
may,
Egyptian stuff does stick out. I don't
maybe
know
it's
enough about it though.
maybe it's some sort of like generational soul curse or something. Like there was some sort of contract made in past lives where these two have encountered each other and encountered each other and encountered each
I don't
other.
know. I don't know. And and the other thing would be, do you know what Chris's ethnicity was?
I do not.
Like, did he have any logical reason to be into Egyptian music, or was he just
I just think it was just his bag, honestly. Like it's just
right?
something that caught him off guard and something that he enjoyed.
I didn't know if that was like a heritage thing or if it was he just fell in love with it for whatever fucking reason.
I don't know right offhand.
So I'm trying to give meaning to it
Because
trying to
it
find
is
something.
it's a weird thing to be into.
Yeah, for sure. Not that like because some of it does sound cool. Like
Yeah.
there's dudes that I know that mix it with metal and it sounds badass,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's here nor there. It's just a bizarre string of events that there's definitely more pieces that we're just not we don't have access to.
Yeah.
There's something unexplained going on there.
And the fact
there has to be.
that's the commonality between her and him was the Egyptian music. That's what made the connection. Is also it
Yeah.
also puts a little more emphasis on possibly whatever the fuck is going on. I don't know.
Yeah, because I don't think this is just a severe case of wrong place, wrong time.
No, it does feel more manipulative and more planned out than
I agree.
than just a happenstance encounter, which that in itself is terrifying that you could essentially run across someone you've never met in your entire life. You may never have met outside of one odd circumstance that your paths cross, and that person can do something to you that essentially not only changes your life in drastic ways. And I'm not even talking like of course there are encounters like that where some random person robs you or stabs you
Right,
or
right.
causes physical harm. This is nothing of this sort. This is something on a realm that you can't defend yourself against.
Yeah.
You say you cut somebody off in traffic, or say you run into somebody in a grocery store, and it pisses them off to the point to where they have the ability to do this kind of shit.
Yeah, they're like, all right, bet, watch.
Yeah.
I'll fuck your life.
Like that Stephen
because
King.
you took the last snickerdoodle.
Yeah. What's that Stephen King movie? Thinner or whatever it was, where the curse is placed and like the dude just immediately starts rapidly losing weight or some shit. I don't know.
I haven't seen it, but
anyway.
And also, I also have to at least throw it out there. Don't take any weight to it, but it kind of makes you wonder too. What if coworker made a deal with Witch Lady?
Oh, that's kind of what I was thinking when I said in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like if she's like, all right, it's not going to be your life if you can give me somebody else's.
Yeah. I fuck with that idea too.
Yeah, it's weird.
Because and logically, if you think about it, that one makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Or maybe it didn't even have to do in regards to life. It could have been anything because there was a specific reason she wanted to go home with him that night. Because she tried and tried and pushed and pushed and pushed.
Yeah, it's to the point of being like aggressive is weird. So I kind of misspoke earlier saying that voicemail was the last contact anyone had with Chris. The voicemail to Sammy where he says they're going to kill me and there's nothing I can do about it. That's not entirely the case. Chris also reached out to a Catholic priest that day, looking for any sort of guidance, any sort of protection. He also returned to the religious bookstore and spoke to the manager again, who said that Chris just appeared exhausted and desperate and beaten down, and he was seeking any sort of advice that anybody could give him on how to defend himself against whatever these things are that were invading his life. So upon hearing the voicemail, Sammy immediately calls the police and pressured them to go check his apartment again. The police, however, decided to wait, give it another little bit, went there in the morning. Sammy felt so hopeless at this point, she decided that if she could not get a hold of him by the next day or hear back from the police, she was going to fly out to Seattle. On the morning of April 18th, Sammy figured out why Chris had not showed up for work again or returned her calls. She called the police and persistently asked them to visit the apartment. Police finally went to his apartment and found the front door unlocked. As they went into the apartment, they found a dozen candles that had burnt down to nothing. Again, salt around the rooms, crucifixes hung on every wall, other relics, religious emblems posted around, rosaries, notes written on torn pieces of paper about how to defend from demonic forces, and the salt sigils in every room of the house, on the back porch, in the bathtub, or in the bathroom, where Chris was found in his bathtub, fully clothed, empty bathtub, in a position where he's on his knees with his hands across his chest with his head up against the wall. He also had candles around the tub and sigils around the tub, and the tub was surrounded in salt. They found no instance of any sort of foul play, no injuries. But I do find, now that we've got to this point, the way that he was positioned in the tub almost looked like, to me visualizing it, almost looked like he was trying to protect himself from something. He was hunkered down, almost in a fetal position, leaned up against the wall, like trying to defend like his face, his throat, his chest, and just barrel, like when you're being attacked by a bear or some shit. You
or a mob.
ball up.
If a mob's kicking you,
Yep,
you get
ball
into like
up.
a fetal position.
Yep.
I do want to point out a couple things. I feel like he went to the bathroom because it's the smallest area to defend against.
Yeah.
I do wonder if he had a salt ring only in front of the tub. Because logically, you would think that it would have to be all the way around you to make a difference, right? I also want to point out, not that this is any type of connection, and I thought Steve was going to go here when he started describing it. However, and like I said, I don't know that this has fuck all to do with anything, but it is weird to me. A lot of times when you look at Egyptian tombs, sarcophaguses,
I didn't think of that.
what do you see?
Hands crossed.
Hands crossed.
That's fucking weird.
That is weird.
That's fucking weird.
I thought you were gonna hit it because you started like dancing
it.
into it, and I'm like, okay. I started smiling. I was like, all right, he caught it too. But it is kind of fucking strange. Not that they're in a fetal position like he was, because it does make a lot of sense what you were saying. Him trying to protect himself.
That was the first thing I thought. Like,
it definitely makes sense, but it's also fucking weird because on the sarcophagus, they always have their arms crossed like that.
Yeah, that's strange.
And it's weird that we kind of kept bouncing back to the Egyptian part. Like, it was a weird flag.
That is weird.
And it's just, I don't know. Like, I feel I don't know why too. The most depressing part of what you just said in probably the past 5 minutes was that the police went there and the door was unlocked.
Yep. He didn't even try.
Was it him though? That's another thing.
Oh, that unlocked the door.
Yeah. Like it was saying, yeah, now you can come in.
Yeah.
He's done. We got him.
Yeah.
Or it could have been him. It could have been that level of defeat. Either way, it's so depressing.
He just was ready.
It sucks. And obviously he wasn't that ready though, because he did make a last stand in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I do 100% feel like he chose the bathroom because it is the smallest area to try to protect.
Yeah. And the police report said that there were salt posted in every doorway. So he was trying. He especially somebody that's not familiar with the metaphysical or familiar with the paranormal, like that, he wouldn't have known that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like just somebody that doesn't dabble in that kind of shit would not have known that. So he was, even in that short period of time, he was trying to do his research, trying to figure out anything that could help him. And essentially nothing did.
It's wild, man.
So
a wild story.
After the coroner's report, they found the toxicity report came back clean. There was nothing in his system. The coroner's final diagnosis was acute myocarditis, which is a rare but potentially fatal heart condition. That was the cause of death. It does seem to be
Seems weird.
prevalent in people ages 20 through 40, so he kind of fit in there. He was super healthy though, so they tried to spin it that like he took a lot of supplements and stuff that it weighed on his heart, but he showed no signs or symptoms of myocarditis.
Well, it also like if we're going down a road of natural causes, quote unquote, here, what would have caused his psychological break? Because bare minimum, it's some type of psychological break if all these things are unfolding.
Yeah.
And you would think that would be heavily, heavily, heavily pushed in the police report.
Yep.
Because I mean, think about it logically here. If most people don't believe in the paranormal like we believe in the paranormal, so they're not going to walk in there and go, "Oh fuck, this guy was battling demons." They're going to say, "This guy thought
He was
battling demons," and look at everything. Like, this is insanity to me.
Which a lot of people went that route, basically saying that he scared himself to death. Right? He got so in his head about things that he essentially caused himself to have a heart attack, which is
I could see that. Not saying that that's what happened here because I don't believe that, but I could see, and I can say that because I've been in situations where I've had myself so stressed about certain things that it really does. It throws your blood pressure through the fucking roof.
Yeah.
And if you maintain that level of stress for too long, it will kill you.
Yeah. I found in my research, so that's kind of where it ends. That was enough for the Kings County coroner. Like he suffered from this myocarditis. We don't need anything else. But I got a couple other things I want to touch on here. On Reddit, I found a breakdown of the case and some links, but I just want to note that a Redditor commented and said, "I'm a physician here. Granted, I'm not a cardiologist, but I've never heard of fear causing myocarditis. It's usually from some sort of infection or a toxin. I can't really think of a mechanism for fear to cause this ailment. If you have a massive adrenaline release, it can overwork your heart, but that would cause ischemia, not myocarditis." It's really interesting that they noted this as the cause of death. So essentially, you cannot be scared into myocarditis.
Interesting.
Which is strange. I also have, I want to shout out my links here. I went to conspiracytheories.in, who had a good write-up on the case. Morbid Curiosity had a good write-up on the case. A couple other podcasts did it. Let's Get Haunted did it. I can't remember the other ones, but definitely just search it up and you'll find them. I also found some more interesting news articles here that I want to read. I was going to read you guys. There's just a few, so bear with me. This is from the Seattle Times. Occult clues baffle police probing weird death scene. Victim reportedly terrified by spurned woman's curse. It'll be 2 to 3 weeks before King County police can unravel the mysterious death of a North King County man whose body was found surrounded by occult symbols. Prompted by information from a Fayetteville, North Carolina woman who told police the man felt his life was in jeopardy after a woman put a curse on him, King County police found the body of Christopher Case, 35, in an empty bathtub in his apartment on the 1300th block of North 152nd Street shortly after 4 p.m. on Thursday. There was no evidence of foul play, but the presence of several crucifixes and piles of kosher salt throughout his apartment have baffled investigators. King County Police Major Jackson Beard said the salt and other objects found at the scene have some significance in self-protection against demonic or evil forces. A book called Strange Customs explained that the salt is a devil repellent. Police found lines of salt poured along the base of the walls throughout the apartment with piles in the corner. The same thing was done on the porch where salt was poured into strange geometric designs. It's pretty clear he thought something was going on, said Beard of the deceased man. However, Beard said the crime scene doesn't suggest that someone came in and did something to him. Beard said the police will know more when tests are done that determine if any toxic substances were in his bloodstream. That will take at least 2 weeks. At this point, this is a suspicious death, something that needs to be explained, said Beard, who is the commander of the King County Police North Precinct. I don't believe there is any foul play. Obviously, though, I'd like to know what the toxicology report says. This could be a suicide, a natural death, or there could be something else going on here. The unnamed woman who tipped off police was a friend of Case. She told police that Case felt that his life was in jeopardy from a woman in San Francisco who had put a curse on him several weeks earlier. Letters, notes, and other written material found in the apartment appeared to support that information. There was also evidence that Case was seeking a psychic to help ward off the curse, which I didn't see that until just now. Sammy Souter, a woman from North Carolina who telephoned the Seattle Times, believed Case may have died from fright. She said Case had called her several times over the past week, expressing strong fear for his life. He said he met a woman who was a witch and was attempting to get him to be enamored with her. When he refused to respond, the woman supposedly put a curse on her, said Souter. Souter, who expressed shock at his death, said she'd known Case for over 10 years and that he had always been exceptionally stable. But a week ago, she said Case called and left a message on her recorder that people are trying to do things to me, but he did not elaborate. He left the same message with our friend in Fayetteville, and he was frantic. Both women tried to contact Case by phone several times over the next 3 days. Finally, the woman in Fayetteville called the King County Police and expressed concerns over his welfare. Souter said the police went to the apartment a couple times, but there was no response. It was locked during those times, but when they returned the last time, the door was unlocked. Again, police found lines of salt poured around the base of walls and throughout the apartment and on his porch. That's from Seattle Times Archive. I have another one here just a little bit later from the Seattle Times. Heart failure killed man who feared cursed. This is from May 4th, 1999. The last article was from April 22nd. A man found dead in unusual circumstances last month after expressing fear that he was the target of a witch's curse has died of heart failure. Medical examiners reported today. The death of Christopher Case had drawn wide interest because he told friends he feared that he was under the curse of a witch. The cause of death was acute myocarditis, said Rich Garner, medical investigator with the King County Medical Examiner's Office. Officers found Case closed body April 18th in a waterless tub in his apartment on the 1300 block of 152 Avenue. And then it kind of just goes through him contacting his friends, and basically the same thing the last article said. I also should point out that I'm trying to think of the podcast that I listened to. It's called This One's a Doozy. Definitely check them out. They got some good cases that kind of lead me down some interesting avenues here. But they brought up the nocebo effect, which essentially is the opposite of the placebo effect. So we all know what the placebo effect is, right? Where you're given a sugar pill, and just the idea of it being a healing property will coax your body into healing itself. The nocebo effect is essentially the opposite, where something is put into your life and you think it's going to cause negative effects, essentially tricking your brain to have negative effects on you.
All right. So with that being said, as you were sitting here describing things, I have a new working theory.
Let's go.
All right. So here's what I'm thinking. I don't think it was a nocebo.
Okay.
I am wondering now if said witch did put a curse on Chris. However, it wasn't a curse of actual demonic or paranormal forces. Okay? Because we look back at this story and you make note of him going through and using religious iconography, symbols, I mean, any and all forms of protection that he can use, he's using it, and it's failing. Boom, 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 boom. Failing, 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 failing. This all happens within the span of 7 days. Okay. On the the third night he was attacked, right? However, when he died and the police report came, or the autopsy report came through, it makes no mention of cuts on his fingers, bruising around his neck. Because if the bruising was that forceful, it would still be on his neck. So I wonder if it was more of a psychological curse because that would explain why none of his religious protection even began to work, because it is an infection of the brain. The brain, it's almost on the lines of the nocebo
Yeah.
in a roundabout way, but it is an actual curse placed upon him.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
Because the coroner's report would report the bruising around the neck, unless unless they are trying to cover up the entire thing.
Yep. That would immediately be foul play.
100%,
strangled.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's almost like a mind virus. Like
And
just
that's what I'm kind of leaning at, is what if, because you think back too on this nocebo, and I'm not trying to fucking throw shade at their thought process, but if Chris is this logical person, this healthy person who doesn't believe in paranormal bullshit at all whatsoever, how does this one state? Because I'm telling you, if some crazy lady was like, if you don't sleep with me, I'm gonna put a curse and you're gonna die in 7 days, I'm gonna go, you're fucking crazy, lady. Get away from me.
Yep.
You're insane. I'm not gonna buy that at all. But the fact that his life completely unraveled in 7 days,
This is nuts.
and he dies within 7 days,
This is crazy.
it makes me wonder if she fucked with his brain somehow, made a curse that would psychologically torment him. And if it is all psychological, it would be almost like inflicting, like schizophrenia in a way, or something to that effect.
Yeah. Like a mind virus.
Like a mind virus to fucking break him. And like I said, that is going to prevent, logically, if she somehow fucks with the chemistry of the brain, that should essentially negate all religious protections, because it's in your brain. It's not actually happening in reality around you, even though you think it is.
Which is terrifying in
That
itself.
sucks.
That if that is the case, that there is no like that is fucked.
That sucks.
If even God can't stop brain manipulation.
Right.
Yeah. I think there is something in the words that she said to him that, I don't know, either planted eggs in his head or rattled something loose in his brain.
Or maybe it was the nocebo. Maybe her conversation went deeper than what we know.
Yeah.
And it really did rattle him, but he's doing what a normal man or woman would do, and they're trying to shake it off.
Yeah.
They're trying to shake it off. And then it just kind of, the mind virus is already planted.
Because he was still thinking about it when he got home. Granted, how they tried to write the narrative that he didn't, because he called and talked to his buddy called and talked to Sammy back in North Carolina.
Right.
So clearly he was thinking about it.
Right.
Which,
right.
I mean, it would stand out as a weird encounter.
For sure.
Like, hey.
For sure. And like, if it happened to you, you're definitely going to call me and be like, dude, you're not going to believe what happened the other night.
Kyle, I got cursed for not getting done.
Right. Like, it would definitely, I think we would say it in jest like that. And that very well could have been what the avenue he was going through. Unless the conversation went deeper and was far more aggressive than let on.
Yeah, I do think it is. Whatever happened was definitely psychological. Does that mean it's not a curse? Absolutely not. It very well sounds like it is leaning that way. Bottom line is, whether it's a curse, whether it scared him to death, well, whatever the fuck, it would not have happened if he would not have ran into this woman.
I agree.
So
I agree. And if it was an entity, I feel like that means said woman would be an extremely powerful witch.
Which, I mean,
to summon an entity
could be the case
that would have the ability to 100% negate all forms of religious, like that's almost like the equivalent of what me and Steve would call resurrecting an old god of punishment.
The what was that? Hellfire Farm.
Yeah, because then you're going to have an entity that's powerful enough to inflict real world damage on you and then negate it up upon your death, make it all disappear.
Yeah. it would have to be. I mean, essentially, you think of those entities. They would have to be on the same realm as Jesus or God.
Yeah, which is fucking terrifying.
Which is, to be able to negate that, you think the power would have to be equal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. It's crazy.
It's a wild story. That was a good story. I liked our thought on all of it too. That was fun. That was a good one.
It does make you wonder about the people you interact with. Or come across. So, yeah, Holocult, that'll be it for your Monday run. Thanks for hanging out with us. It's been a good time. Hope everybody has a good week. Check us out on all our social medias: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Discord, Reddit. Come be part of the cult. You know the drill. Until we meet again, stay safe, stay weird. And next time someone says they're going to put a curse on you, maybe take it seriously right off the rip. Maybe you'll get yourself some extra days.